All right, so you see, I saw this guy do this one time, and oh shit, that could have been 10 years ago. But it always sat with me because, like I say, I believe it to be true. Okay, so here you got, merry old England, right? And here you got, oh geez, can I even? Okay, Canada, something like this, and then we go off like that. I don't know. Okay, that's the wrong place for those guys. I just made England look like a big dick. I'm not saying nothing here. I'll try not. All right. So over here, you got this river in here somewhere, hey? Anyways, on that land they have a corporate state, a sovereign corporate state called Inner City of London. Washington, D.C. is a sovereign corporate state. Vatican is a sovereign corporate state. So these are corporate states, guys. Okay? So they're sovereign. Right? Alright. Canada's not sovereign. Right? Now, what it is, many moons ago, some guys with money fled Europe because of a corporate state, and pretty much they were getting knocked off. They used to work for the corporate state. One time they were in the enforcers, but then they became rich and powerful, and so the corporate state decided to come out with another enforcer, and went around Europe annihilating them. So they found refuge at London, right? And so now the king of England, he didn't really have the coin, but he had the armies. So he was able to defend these guys, these bankers, okay, these money men. And so he did. So in return, they were given this as a corporate state, so they would operate the money for the king. Let's put a crown here. Okay. And he's smiling because he's got money now. Because it takes money. Well, let's give him a little goûter. There. Because it takes money to operate a kingdom. Like way back, I'm not sure if I told this story, but like way back when they first came out with the note system, right? The fiat currency note system. Because like many empires in the past had fiat currency, but they would use like copper or iron or something and make coins, and then the coins would have a face value. They didn't have that value and weight of the metal that they used. I'm sure they even used wood at one time, but it was fiat currency, right? The faith of the people, right? So like Rome did. Rome had gold, of course, and of course they had silver, but they used a lot of copper. Copper was their common, it was in abundance, it was cheap, and it was a common currency. So, so back in the days when they first came out with the note system, so say I was a knight of something, and I had my little kingdom, which were usually, the township or the city township and a little bit of surrounding area, that I could protect, right? That would be my kingdom. Like Ireland used to be full of kingdoms, right? And usually interrelated, and family feuds going on all the time. I think family feuds are still going on over there, right? But I know 2,000 years ago, apparently on my nanny's side of the family, which is our JFK side of the family, uh, you know, we King Rufus the Black, you know, black Irish motherfucker, and I guess he was quite a cruel and unusual guy. But anyway, so you had these kingdoms. So when they first made up their notes and stuff, what they do is that the king, the lord, or whatever, he'd write up a note. So you say you wanted to buy some cattle from your neighbor, right? And nobody really had a bunch of money, and the knight or whatever of the kingdom, he wasn't going to just give you gold. They figured out a way to have a note system. So they would write up a note like, this note is good for 10 cows, right? You know, bearer on demand, right? So you know, things are starting to sink in now to the way things are run today. So anyways, so that note, I would take that note from the Lord. Now I owed him 10 cows, right? Because he just gave me 10 cows worth of fiat currency. So what I could do is I could go to you and I give you that note, you give me the 10 cows. Now the 10 cows were entrusted to me right now, but I still owed that guy 10 cows for that note, right? So I could run my cattle, get my offspring, and pay him back with 11 cows, right? Or 10 cows, because usury is still outlawed, guys, right? This is why you know, person includes corporation, okay? So the inclusion of one is the exclusion of all others. And if you take a look at the English language, the way they use it in the Interpretation Act of Canada, it says person includes corporation. Okay, if it would have said person does include corporation, that means it would be left open and you could add other things to person. Okay, so a person is a corporation on this, within the jurisdiction of Canada. All persons are corporations. Okay, so yeah, you are secure in your person. Okay, down the state they call it persons. Here they multiply the person without the S. It's the way it's over here in that fucking useless paperwork that I keep bringing up every now and then, you know. But everyone is secure in their persons, basically. That means you're secure in your corporation, right? Okay, so anyways, so you'd have a note worth 10 cows. Now, whoever bore that note could go back to the Lord or the king or whatever and get their 10 cows because it's signed by the value of 10 cows, right? Say if you wanted to pay, hey, I don't got 10 cows, but I'll give you 5 gold coins. Oh, okay, here's your note back. And so that was the early notes. That's how they all worked. So you had all these knights and these lords, these kings, little kingdoms all over Europe, and they had this note system going, and it took off and it went pretty well. The only problem is people just started to call in their notes, and the whole thing collapsed. Now, at the same time that the note system collapsed, and it happened to be Friday the 13th, by the way. Imagine that, eh? Bad luck day? Is that because the notes collapsed on that day? But at the same time, these guys also were the enforcers for the sovereign state, right, which I'm keeping nameless. And so they were being hunted down because now they had no money. The people weren't happy with them because they couldn't get paid for the notes, and now they're getting hunted down by the sovereign state. So a bunch of them that survived ended up over here. Now, of course, they kept their money. They had the money. They just weren't going to pay anybody. Here, I'll give you another note. Right? I'm saying, well, no, I want the coin. Right? And at that time, it was around the same time that, you know, Da Vinci's time, the Renaissance. Right? So a lot of the small kingdoms went broke. Of course, the Vatican was holding because they had a lot of gold, and Venice was holding because they had a lot of gold, and they had good defenses. So there were the odd kingdom that still had a lot of gold, and they were the ones that were basically thriving, surviving. But a bunch of the other ones, they ended up here. I made a deal with this guy, right? Okay, you take your armies and you protect us, and we'll finance you. We'll finance your wars. So it was a pretty good deal. And that's how the inner city of London came about as a sovereign state. Now, Canada is a corporation. Okay, so Canada has no metes and bounds. Canada itself actually is, I think it's 12 miles of coastline. That is their actual jurisdiction. Now there's other things, and this story can go on and on and on about, you know, how they consider everything is under the sea now, and there's, you know, blah blah blah. Like, okay, but whatever. I'm not going to get too far. But it's a jurisdictional. They don't own the ocean, but they have jurisdiction over there. They claim jurisdiction there, right? So, so the inner city of London does the banking for this character who acts as the king or queen. Now, this guy is from the land, right? And him and the land are one. It's our carbon-based bodies. We're of this land, right? So, how did you get in, you sneak? So, okay, so the land and the king are one. And the land and the people are one. Hey! Buzz. Land and the people are one, all right? And the king serves the people at his leisure, at his pleasure. All right, so this is what a constitutional monarchy is. All right? Now, what's going on here is we have a corporate body somewhere around here called Canada. All right? It's a corporation. It's a sub-corporation. Like, pretend this is Coca-Cola and Canada is a subsidiary country. I don't know, let's call it Mars Bars. That's all that's going on here, folks. Right? It's just a corporate body, right? A sub-corporation of the inner city of London. So what happens is when you're a citizen, citizens are officers of this corporate body, this crown corporation. They're citizens, and so they're all over this land. Okay, but the only problem is there are those of mankind of and from this land here. Okay, also. Now, because corporations are not allowed to cause harm to mankind, all right? So any of these citizens, these corporate persons, they have to be licensed to partake on what mankind has a right to do on this land. Fish, hunt, forage, fly, go from point A to point B with whatever property and whatever mode of transportation that you wish. You have that right. It's the right of mankind. But what they did to trick us in was they said, well, so at first these licenses and stuff, it would be given to corporations. And like even if you read the Hudson's Bay Charter, they show you the difference between a citizen of England, those of the corporate body, like the Hudson's Bay Corp, the Christian Indians, the savages that you were allowed to kill, just like the Jews, just like the Nuremberg law, and then those of mankind on this land. You know, yeah. It doesn't say those of mankind on this land. It just says, I think it's just a man of the land or whatever. And so they classified everybody, right? And, but I don't want to go too far into that. That's for everybody to read. Just read it. Take a look at Cal Washington's stuff. Take a look at Doug Force's stuff. Read Whole Canada. It's definite recommend and read. I mean, there's lots. If you do research, if you actually spend some time researching, you're going to find a lot of good stuff. So anyways, what it is that because persons have no rights, okay, you have no intrinsic right, you have no right to operate on anyone's land, right? This belongs to the public. It doesn't belong to the corporation, right? They're operating on this land, right, as a de facto government. So the first licenses and that came out were for, like, say, postal workers and government workers and corporations, because we had to make sure they were competent. Whoever did act on behalf of that corporation was competent to go pass through or operate in the public without causing harm to a man or a woman. That's where it all comes from, right? Now, the other thing is too, I mean, because the money guys, they get pretty big and they get pretty powerful, the king has to have some security. So what the king did was, no, he didn't draw a line in the sand, but what a king did was he has the armed forces. Right? Now, the army is what protects the king from the bankers. And this is why those who join up with the armed forces are called the Queen's men. Okay? You're a Queen's man. They don't say Queen's woman, man. Feminine, masculine man, Queen's man. Alright? And you're protecting the king. Well, who does the king protect? The king represents the people. Okay? The people from this land. People of this land. The king and the people are one. And the army is there to protect the people. And to keep the inner city of London, the crown corporation, in check. That, I believe, is exactly, pretty much, rudimentary, how this whole unit works. So what's going on at this time is Canada, Mars bars, right? You know, these aliens that are not of this land, okay, that need to be licensed. And they need legislation, they need an enactment to act on this land. With no enactment, they can't act on this land the way they do. And whenever there's an enactment, it has to be set out in a manner that doesn't break the common law, the customs of the people, or open the doors to cause harm, loss, or injury to any man or woman. Now, here's where I'm getting upset, because now they're creating enactments. There's a difference between a piece of legislature and an enactment. Like the what is it, the 1952 legislation, what do they call it? Bill of Rights. The joke of rights. Anyways, the Bill of Rights, 1952, I believe it is. Diefenbaker is 62. Anyways, Diefenbaker's Bill of Rights. That's, he tried to get that, to get enacted, to be law, to be a foundation, but he couldn't get everybody to agree on it and sign off on it, so therefore it just became a piece of legislation. Right? So it has, I'll still use it, not for myself. It's not my piece of paper. I didn't write it. I don't know who fucking wrote it, but it does resemble a few things that I know that are property of I. Like the property of I is the right to freely express myself, my right to freedom of religion and freedom of conscience, my right to protect property. Okay, that would be my kids' property, my old lady's property. I am her property. All right, she has a right to protect her property as well, and so on and so forth. These are all the common law laws that go way back in history that are established in the foundation of the nation we call Canada. Okay, now the nation is not the country. And the country is this jurisdictional bullshit with no meets and bounds. The nation is you and I of this land. We are of the nation of Canada, right? we are a Judeo-Christian nation. That means we recognize the fact that mankind, God created man, man created government to protect property. We recognize the fact that we have inalienable rights. Now, if a man or those of mankind are separated from these inalienable rights, man ceases to exist. Now, what do you have? You have this guy. Capitis demitio. Right? You have the slave. And a slave is not a man. A slave is property. So now I see shit like this coming in the mail from this guy here that I know is owned and operated by these guys, coming over to me and saying, hey, you're my slave. No. Now I realize that I can benefit if I wish, okay, because they do operate here on this land, and I am of this land as man and part of mankind, right? I realize certain benefits have been forwarded to me, okay, or are forwarded to me, to every man and woman of this land, because we're of this land. They're operating on our property, all right? We're not operating on their property. They're operating on our property. So in exchange for operating on our property, for making money and so on and so forth, then they offer certain benefits. But what's been going on is we've been getting twisted around, and now they refuse to see any man or woman, probably because they can't. That's like you saying, I saw God. Really? You saw the old guy in the beer sitting in the chair up there? What did you see? What did you see for God? You know? It's like, how can you see if you know, whether they say there's like 11 dimensions, you know, that we know about. So say God is the highest of the 11th dimension. How does a three-dimensional being see the 11th dimension? That's like that piece of paper being able to see you. Something, Homer Simpson, something of the second dimension able to see mankind. They can't. They can't. They can't. This corporate body can't see man, because we're too high. They can't see that far up. And which is why they wish, or those of our fellow man that do operate as entitled persons within the corporate body, through their office they can't see mankind because it's not legislated in there. The only place that I've ever seen man is in the military stuff, right? Where they have to sign to join in blue ink. That's the only place I've ever seen it. So, and then this gets us into the provost marshal and so on and so forth, right? Because the army works for man, right? So there was one little thing I was forgetting about this wonderful map that I just made. Isn't that pretty? There was one more thing that I did wish to say about this. I forget offhand, but oh yeah. So, because we are of the land, right? All the natural resources of this land belong to mankind that are born from this land, right? So, this is one thing our native cousins know. Now, I'm not going to get too far into that rabbit hole there, because they're as fucked up as we are. I mean, they've got internal wars going on 6 ways, like, and they're not a happy bunch. And I don't fucking blame them. I don't blame them. I mean, we should have been coming together as a people over 100 years ago, so that we could learn from them and they could learn from us, and we could grow as a nation. And this crown corporate body has purposely kept those of mankind of this land separated, right? Divided, diversity, divided, so that they can keep control and only recognize those persons that they have control of. All right, so sorry about that. Fucking rants, but yeah, so like there is no, okay, well, I'll just say this because I forgot what else I was going to say, right? But, you know, the deal is here is there are no provincial constitutions. Okay, so the documents are all from here, okay? From here, okay? And passed to here. Right, so everything is within the jurisdiction. It's a principality, it's a power, it's a ruler, it's dominion of the air. That's what all their paperwork is. For Alberta and Saskatchewan to get a constitution, it needs to come from those from this land. Okay? And it needs to go up, ground up. And now it has a proper foundation that gives everyone standing. Right? Don't build your house upon the sand. Build it upon foundation. Canada is like the Canada you and I always took for granted. Hey, we all have a right. We're part of the free world. Da 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 da. It's gone. Okay? It's now gone. All right? Nobody is... These guys create all this legal crap. Pass it down here. These guys create a bunch of legal crap because they are the creators. It belongs to them. They will interpret what it means. And you have no right to interpret what any of this crap means. All right? So yeah, oh sure, there's they created the office, our creation created the office of the Ethics Commissioner's office. Oh, but you know, hey, listen, look, we created, yeah, okay, I did bad, okay, yeah. But I did it, you know, I did it for jobs. Yeah, just go away. Yeah, hey, you got your paycheck? Yeah, just go away. Exactly. Well, we have a constitution of and for, from, of and for, built up. Now man has standing. And it's built on a rock. It's built on bedrock. Constitution. Right? It's not it's not a principality, it's not a ruler, it's not a dominion of the air, it's from the ground up. And it's the foundation of man because it came from this land. Just like every feminine and masculine man came from this land. Everyone. All right? Now, if you wish to hold the title, then you have to operate within certain, you have certain, ordinances and policies that you have to operate within. There's a mandate, right? And you have duties, responsibilities, and obligations not to cause harm to any man or woman by way of your office. That would be unlawful. Not illegal. It might be illegal too. It could be legal, but it would be totally unlawful. This is why we had the Nuremberg trials. Yeah, it's legal to kill a Jew, but the only problem is you were killing your fellow man. Well, I was just following orders. Every one of these persons operating within the public as peace officers and policy enforcement officers and that, it's going to come back. Like nobody from the free world these days is going to put up with being communized and put under the heel of a dictator's boot. It's not going to happen. Canada is not going to end up, those folks of this nation are not going to end up under the boot heel of a tyrant, of a dictatorship. So some lazy ass kids can get their free ride and spout off, oh, the rich. No. Especially, look at France, look at Chile, look at Hong Kong, and look at Iran. Now, last time Iran, the people of that land that we call Iran, okay, I believe they're Persians, are they not? But the last time the people were getting up in arms against a tyrannical government